15 minutes of racing ready to go in the 2025 Focus Cup as we take to Oulton Park for the first of two races on this Saturday. They worked their way out of the pit lane, they're on the formation lap, they're ready to go round this brutal circuit and what I'm sure will be a fantastic duo of 15 minutes of racing. It's always great racing in the Focus Cup. It's always really, really exciting. And it is, once again, Lewis Clark on the pole position. Absolutely dominates in this championship. He's a multiple champion and, of course, has won an awful lot of races and had an awful lot of pole positions. This is another one to throw into his name. One thorn in his side throughout some parts of the season, though, has been the driver starting alongside him. Leo Paniatau will be starting from second position alongside Lewis Clark on that front row. Jonathan Baker and Simon Walton will make up the second row of the grid before we'll get to Simon Watts, who'll be starting from the fifth position. Of course, on that second row of the grid. And then we'll have Craig Appleton and Ian Mitchell. Those 7 cars that make up our ST250 category. The rest of them being the ZTEC category, we'll see Ali Topley starting from the pole position in that respective class, and Simon Langford then starting from 9th on the grid. Craig Ballantyne starting from 10th position alongside Ian Graham and Darren Rickaby. He'll be starting from 12th, but of course we'll end up starting back on row 9 courtesy of the split on the grid. Behind that is Adam Winter with Mark McCann, who I've got a few stories about. Mark McCann, who's had a bit of a troublesome testing session coming into this. Richard Hall will be starting from 15th alongside Richard Wynn from the 16th position. A few rows still left to go with Ian Howard and Abby Walton starting from the likes of 18th spot. Then it's Katrina Grape and Matthew Croft starting from 20th. 3 more cars to go through with Ben Pemberton starting from 21st position. Cameron Ferraro McKenzie starting from 27th position, or 22nd rather, 27th on the actual overall grid, with Sarah Hall starting from the 23rd and final position. What I was saying about Mark McCann, by the way, in practice, the story goes, they had a bit of an incident, it shall be said, at Old Hall, which is the first corner, which basically wrote off the car, so he had to go into the spare car and he's starting P7 in the ZTEC class. So jumping into a spare car is always good. He said he's quite scared of Druids, which is the corner in the background there. I can understand that one. Obviously, jumping into a car that you're relatively unfamiliar with, to then still throw it around the circuit at the at high speed is tricky. And I know you'll say high speed, these are Focuses, they don't go that quick. They go plenty fast enough, I'll have you know, especially around here. They are plenty fast enough, and they race very well. Obviously, if you've watched the Focus Cup before, you don't need an introduction on that side of things. You know they race quite well. You know they're pretty quick, especially those ST250s that are in the top category. Those 7 cars that will be running around quite a bit faster than those behind, about 10 seconds a lap faster. The green flag is in the air as the cars are ready to go racing then. 15 minutes is put onto the clock for the first of 2 races here at Oulton Park. The second will follow at about 6 o'clock local time. The red lights are on. And for the first time, we are racing here then at Oulton Park in 2025. It is a good start from, once again, Lewis Clark, our championship leader, our pole sitter. He races down into that first corner to keep Leo Paniatau at bay, side by side behind that between Jonathan Baker and Simon Walton. As working through, it's still Ali Topley leading the ZTEC category as they head their way through the opening turn. A couple of cars have run wide here and kicked up an awful lot of dust. As we will zoom in and take a look as to who's going side by side. Well, Lewis Clark has been out wide. He might have been the one that ran wide at the first corner, because Clark has relinquished the race lead to Leo Paniatau in the 29. So the championship leader and the multiple champion drop back now into second position. It's Clark down to second. It's Paniatau into the race lead, and they're all joined in this fight by the number 10 of Jonathan Baker, the top 3, as they work their way through Shell Oils for the first lap. Punching it out of the corner, the 3 behind, battling for 4th, 5th and 6th. And then the 7th spot of Ian Mitchell, who had a bit of an issue in qualifying and had the slowest time registered in qualifying. See, with the cars being plenty faster, it'd be dangerous to put him at the back end of the ZTEC category. So joined the rear end of the ST250s, but with that struggle in qualifying, might have to spend a few laps getting into the rhythm of the race. Lewis Clark looks to the outside of Paniatau, drops back in behind and stays to a rear and stays in second spot. there was a lot of locking up happening there from the number 2 of Simon Walton. I think there might be some drama as well. I think there's something spraying off the front end of the car. I think he'll have to return to pit lane. That could be he's pierced the radiator or something like that, because it's definitely some drama that is happening with that car, and I don't think that's going much longer. If it was the radiator, obviously it's going to make the tyres wet. If there's any water leaking out, and that might be why he was locking up heading down. But then again, I'm not an engineer, so I won't judge. They'll head their way into the final corner, then the top 3 still locked in together. It's Paniatau leading from Clark, leading from Baker in the ST250 category as they head their way back out onto the start-finish straight. You can see a bit of damage as well on the front end of Paniatau's car, just basically right in the middle. It's kind of where it's, obviously I know it's a white car, but there's black there. Simon Walton has pulled over to one side, and understandably so. I think that car was basically toast. And so rather than do any more damage with it trying to get back to pit lane, pull over to one side, let the marshals drag it back, and then they'll figure out a plan for race number 2 later on this evening. Paniatau continues to lead. Lewis Clark nearly had a better run there coming out of coming on to rather Lakeside and down to the Island Bend. This is where you'll get that look at that front damage on Paniatau. It's where the black part is, right in the middle of that black part, right on the front, right at the bottom. You'll see it's cracked in half right there, and it's not supposed to be like that. They won't cause any major dramas, but still, if he's hit someone, again, you can cause some radiator damage if you're not careful. Out wide in the background, I think that was Mitchell trying to maybe make a move there on Watts, but alas, couldn't do so. As we'll see, Paniatau pull a little bit clear, and now Lewis Clark has to worry about Jonathan Baker making a move to the inside. The lead, by the way, oh, Paniatau's gone out wide, never mind. I was about to change topic and look back to the Z-Tech category, but Paniatau makes an absolute mess of the chicane there at Hislop's. Goes straight on, rejoins obviously in the race lead. It's about a healthy margin doing so. He'll have to give that back and drop back into the clutches at least of Lewis Clark. Kind of racing like I did back in my Gran Turismo days. That was full throttle straight over the grass. Don't worry about it. As you can see, I think the damage on that front, as much as I pointed towards the bottom of the car, the front and then the lower part of it, I think there's more than that. Jonathan Baker has also dropped backwards. Has he got a problem, or was that a note from race control that maybe he had to give that position up? I've got no notes from race control, so I think Jonathan Baker might have had a bit of a problem there, and he is losing power. He's definitely losing power in the number 10. So Baker also having a bit of a problem here. They're losing quite a few of the ST250s. If this is the case, we've lost one already in the hands of Walton. We've now got Baker as well having a bit of a problem, as we'll then head back into the Z-Tech category and see how things are unfolding here. It's Ali Topley continuing to lead, and by a very handsome margin indeed. Running away from those behind, as we've got side by side behind the number the 27 here, going into full battle. That's Graham there, trying to fight with Rickaby. You've got Hall in the mix as well in the number 99. There's Mark McCann that I was talking about a bit earlier on the day as how he's in a backup car and is still trying to get right involved into this mix. And there's a big slide as well, big more slide. Keep your foot right down on the loud pedal just to try and keep it pointed in the right direction. And at the moment, Rickaby is feeling that pressure from behind, so he's going to lose the single position to the 64 of McCann. But alas, it's kind of one of those things. If you've done any racing in front-wheel drive, you're probably quite aware of it. If you've never raced a front-wheel drive, well, if you're going into a big slide, all the power's on the front of the car, isn't it? So the best thing that you can do sometimes is slam that throttle pedal down. Sounds crazy, but if you're sliding, that by getting onto the throttle pedal, it tries to point the car back in the right direction, regaining control of the car. Not saying that that's the use case for every single scenario, but generally speaking, it can get the car pointed back in the right direction. But still, that's pretty much what happened there for Rickaby. As we'll look there, the number 99, of course, belongs to Richard Hall. Flicking through Knickerbrook and then back up the hill. Mark McCann out a little bit wide as they head their way through Knickerbrook. Then you've got the likes of Howard behind. You've got Wynn, you've got Watts as well. They're all keeping themselves very close in this battle. 8 minutes and 40 seconds left to go. We're approaching the halfway point of this race. And a reminder that it is Paniatau leading by 1.8 seconds. In my money, that shouldn't be that large of a margin, but that's fine. Race control can do as they please with that one. The number 99 there of Richard Hall defends to the inside. Howard's going to look to the outside, and they head their way back onto the start-finish straight. Rickaby, who's already had a couple of issues, is the one that sat at the head of this little train as they fight for 6th in class at present. There comes the inside move. Hall sends it at Old Hall and completes the move. Howard will be the next one onto the mix, as will Wynn, as will Winter, as they head their way through into turn 2, dropping down the hill into Cascades before they head out through Lakeside. And once again, a big moment there for Rickaby. Cannot get that corner right at the moment, in a little bit too deep, and that has opened the door for another potential loss. We'll come back to that in a moment, because we'll return up to the battle for 3rd position in the 250 category as Watts and Mitchell do battle. This is a return down into the fight then between the 49, I believe, of Valentine, which is for 3rd at the moment in the ZTEC category, and 4th as well. So you've got Valentine, you've got Graham, you've got McCann as well, as Graham's actually dropped back off the rear end of this. So it's McCann who's the one directly behind, I believe. We'll update you with that one in just a second, as we can see this fight here also. The 27 of Graham is the green card that's dropped back in that one. I think Ballantyne's actually not running in 3rd. He might be running... well, we'll come back to that in a second time. Of course, we can see them work their way through the Hislop chicane. There's been a bit of a moment there. And the number 6 of Wynn going very slow. Further problem, might have to return to pit lane. Very slow on the exit of the Knickerbrook, the Hislop chicane, and then through Knickerbrook. And more problems. Just again, this circuit is brutal for these cars, for these drivers, even in the conditions that we've got right now, where it's fairly warm. It's quite muggy out there on the circuit. As they'll head their way through, battled for 3rd position in the ST250 category. It's Watts and Mitchell. They're comfortably ahead of Appleton, ahead of Baker as well, who are currently running 5th and 6th. Before it's Ali Topley, who is now 10 seconds clear in the ZTEC category, running away. Ballantyne's up to 2nd position. Langford then in 3rd in the ST category, and this the ZTEC category rather. This the battle for the race lead in the ST250s, as we've got Paniatau versus Clark, 2 drivers that we've seen battle quite a few times in the 2025 season of the Focus Cup. And it's Lewis Clark, the driver who probably feels that he's got nothing to prove in that. He's proved himself, or he doesn't need to prove himself to anyone in this category. Just wants to go out there and keep on winning. Paniatau has been throwing himself right at this, and has been capturing a few victories in the opening few rounds of the championship. Dropped off a little bit recently, but still in a very comfortable position. And now we'll have to keep Clark at bay. 5 minutes left to go of the race. Still plenty of time. It will be 3 laps at the line. 3 laps from this point on before we'll see the checkered flag displayed and a race winner crowned. And you can see how hard they're throwing it into that opening corner. Fastest lap of the race, coming on the previous then, in the hands of the number 1 of the multiple champion, of Lewis Clark, who currently is trying to chase down and win once again, to extend his championship lead, to look more and more comfortable at the front end of this championship. He's always controlled the Focus Cup when he's been in it, and now with a bit of lap traffic as well to navigate, things might get a little bit sketchy. They work their way past the lap traffic, and Lewis Clark might be a little bit deep here into Shell Oils. It's going to give him a later apex, a better run down towards the Britain's chicane. Not typically a good overtaking opportunity, the Britain chicane. The run between Shell Oils and Britain's too short to make anything majorly stick. Remember when, whoa, Paniatau making a big mistake there on the exit of the Britain's chicane. And now really starting to feel the pressure, as here comes Lewis Clark, looks to the outside, gets into the break. There's Clark in the number 1. Paniatau could be in deep here once more. The up and under coming from Lewis Clark. The up and under once again coming in from Lewis Clark. He cannot get past Paniatau. as they work their way into Knickerbrook. It's Paniatau leading from Clark by absolutely nothing, as Clark will look to the left-hand side as they head up Clay Hill. Now they'll get into Druids, the double right-hander. He'll be on the inside through this bit. He'll give them the outside as they head their way through Druids. Such a fast and technical corner, even in these cars. The rear end likes to dance around as you're heading through there, so you've got to balance throttle to obviously keep the front end pointing in the right direction to get onto the power early. But you can't use it too much, otherwise you'll completely understeer straight off the circuit. Paniatau continues to lead. Lewis Clark will have to settle for second for now. We'll have 2 laps left to go at the moment as they'll head their way through. The thing is, I will say, when we're looking at these two cars, obviously you can see that damage on the front end of Paniatau. He is sliding that rear end all over the place right now. Something I'm not 100% sure if everything's completely settled on Paniatau's car, who was leading by a comfortable margin earlier on in the race. It was by about a second, maybe 2 seconds over Lewis Clark. Yes, I know he skipped over the Hislop chicane, but he was leading by a comfortable margin. Then Lewis Clark was able to drag that back down. I wonder if there might well have been some form of problem for Paniatau. The last lap time, maybe this is irrelevant because they're battling, the last lap time was a 59.7 for Paniatau. His personal best has been a 57.8, so they're running about 2 seconds slower than they were earlier on in the race. Of course, Lewis Clark being dropped down to the speed of Paniatau at the moment, who does seem to be struggling a little bit. The car definitely dancing on the way into corners. You saw that at Old Hall. Could this be the opportunity then for Lewis Clark? He's going to get alongside as they drop their way down the hill. It definitely looks as though Paniatau's car is crabbing slightly. You can see it definitely from that shot there. It just didn't look like it was going straight. It looks like the rear end is slightly out. You'd be feeling that in the car with your hands on the wheel. It would be your right hand down slightly. So you'll be going along, crabbing along, slightly right hand down. To be fair, it could be more than slightly right hand down for him. It could be about 30 degrees of steering rotation to the right. That tells me that something is breaking on that rear suspension, particularly on the right hand side. We'll have to wait and see if the wheel's popping out slightly. But it does look as though something's not quite right with Paniatau. But in classic, touring car-esque style, club racing, let's just do this style, he is not slowing down at all. Absolutely pinned around this circuit is Paniatau as he tries to wrestle his way around. One final lap of Oulton Park to chase down victory. Into the first corner they go. Paniatau continues to lead. That last lap was only a second slow. Absolutely flying around here. There's Ali Topley, who's your race leader in the Z-Tech category, by an unreal margin at the moment. Where is he? He's currently leading by 15 seconds. There's a car off the road there. One of the Z-Tech category cars. We'll come back to that one in a moment. But that's a bit of drama down at the second and third corners as they head their way, obviously, onto the Lakeside Straight down towards Shell Oils. So that car off at Cascades. There is Paniatau out through the Shell Oils hairpin. I think Lewis Clark is now backed off somewhat, thinking, okay, well, I guess this isn't my opportunity to win then. Gave it a good go, but maybe protecting the car a little bit for the race that will come up later on this evening. Paniatau has been wrestling this car. You can definitely see it here. It's almost like, even though here you should be seeing more of the right-hand side of the car than the left, it feels like I can see more of the left of Paniatau's car in that braking zone. So clearly something's not quite right. Again, typical touring car style. Throttle's pinned until the checkered flag. It doesn't really matter anymore. A good day. Again, a very high-quality drive from the pair of them. Can't imagine how difficult that would be on the balance through corners like this at Druids, where everything is skating around all over the place. Couple of corners left to go. They'll head their way into Lodge and then up Dearly. Got a little bit more lap traffic to navigate as they'll find their way through on Gray and on Croft. Dropping down the hill, Paniatau going to win again in the Focus Cup. After defending off Lewis Clark, the champion leader has been defeated here as Paniatau crosses the line at Oulton Park to win the first of 2 races this weekend. Clark has to settle for second, and then a fair wait back until we'll see Mitchell across the line to round out the podium. Already had our fair share of drama in the Focus Cup. especially there in the ST250 category. Big shame for light drivers the likes of Oulton, who obviously retired from the race earlier on after an issue at the front end of the car, and further drivers throughout the race did pull over to one side of the exit of Druids. Either way, the race isn't done quite yet because we've still got to see the Z-Techs across the line. Some of them are already crossing the line, having finished a lap down. But for Ali Topley, it'll be a nice, comfortable run in the Power Maxed car. Makes its way through the corner of Druids. This is for the number 4 car of Winter versus the number 64 of Mark McCann. So McCann's got a problem here because McCann was running in 5th in class and he's now running in 8th in class. Either way, here comes Ali Topley up towards the line to completely dominate the field here in the Z-Tech category as he crosses the line to win at Oulton Park. That gap for victory will be more than 15 seconds. Absolutely dominant drive. There's a look though at your race winner. There's a look at Paniatown in the ST250s, comfortably in control. You see a little bit of damage on the front end where the front basically needs to be slightly reattached and maybe even taped up ready for the race a little bit later on. I'm sure they'll need to be doing some investigating underneath the car, particularly towards that rear spin. If not, he might say, do you know what, I've won on it. Let's just do that. It'll be fine. Only got to do 15 more minutes of racing later on in the day and we'll all be good. Of course, yeah, there are some setup things they can do, so it might dance that way, but that didn't look like intentional. What they're doing, very like NASCAR-esque. If you ever see the I can't remember in NASCAR, where like your front wheels and your rear wheels, they do travel on. That's how they're designed to. And I can't remember what it's called. So I will move on from that topic and we will talk about the provisional race results. Because Paniatown in the ST250 category was victorious by 1.7 seconds over Clark, then Mitchell, then Watts, then Appleton, then Baker, the 6 ST250 cars that were able to reach the checkered flag. Ali Topley absolutely dominant in 7th position overall, but of course winner of the Z-Tech category. Ballantyne, Graham and Langford, those inside the top 10 for the top 4 of that Z-Tech category. And look at that margin of victory. Absolutely incredible by Ali Topley, 17 seconds. Then we've got Richard Hall, then Howard, then Winter, Rickaby, McCann with some late drama dropping down to 15th position with Wynne, Croft, Gray, Pemberton and Walton obviously dropping down the order. We've got Sarah Hall there in 21st position. We've got Walton who retired from the race earlier on, and Ferrari McKenzie I think didn't quite make the race start, might have retired in that first lap, but I do believe it was more so not taking to the race start. That wraps us up though for the first race of the day here in the Focus Cups. We'll be back out racing at 6 o'clock here at Oulton Park, ready for a second race in the Focus Cup. We'll see you then though. Until then, have a very warm goodbye.